everyone, and welcome to the Royals Rundown Podcast, the opening day edition presented by Royals Review. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas City Royals, you got to go check out royalsreview.com. You can also find Royals Review on X and on Facebook at the same name. I am Jacob Milham. The other guy that you're going to hear from is Jeremy Greco, but we are very lucky to be joined by Royals Review editor, the guy who makes it all happen, Max Reiper. Max, how are we feeling tonight, man?
Doing great. Just ready for opening day, man. I'm going to be out at the stadium watching some baseball. It's like 45 degrees here right now, but it's warming up. It's supposed to be like mid-60s by first pitch. I'll believe when I see it, but hoping for good weather tomorrow.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Jeremy, are you excited, man?
You know, I would be excited, but there's just all this controversial stuff about the stadium. You know, I just can't believe, I cannot believe that the team would change the Pepsi porch into the QT fountain deck. Are you kidding me? This is the worst thing that's ever happened in Kansas City.
I mean, the worst part is I can't even disagree with you. It's the Pepsi porch. It's an institution. It's been a Royals institution for as long as I can remember.
Like 5 years or something?
Yes, it's an institution, okay? All right, the Pepsi porch got us through some dark days. Don't you remember 2018?
No, what got us through the dark days was the Krispy Kreme promotions.
Ooh, that's true.
Real fans know, yeah.
I'll never, I'm going to derail this real quick, but I'll never forget as a young lad, teenager going to games, and Benito Santiago was on the team that year. I was at a game, and the team had 11 hits. They were not going to win, but they had 11 hits, and so we were all out in the crowd chanting, "We want donuts."
Did you get donuts
games like that?
I don't remember.
Damn, that'd be pretty cool. Guys, I'm ecstatic over here. I'm out here in Virginia. I'm trying to I think I'm going to hitchhike my way up to Camden Yards so I can see the Royals and the Orioles next week. But man, the winter is over, and I don't know what to do with myself, Jeremy.
Now
I don't know.
It's an exciting
I really don't. What'd you say?
It's an exciting time. Baseball is back.
God, Jeremy, you're not excited enough. God.
I didn't believe you. For those of you listening, because I don't think anybody's watching, Jacob just tore his shirt off. I don't know how I feel about this.
Jeremy, it's baseball. All right, I'll stop.
The pod's now rated PG-13, I think, officially.
with parental guidance. Yes,
yeah.
Sorry about that, everyone out there not watching. Let me put a shirt on. Jeremy,
no, I'm sorry for everyone out there who is watching, honestly.
Listen, I know it's the spring. The sun hasn't been out a lot here. And I reflect like the sun, like the moon. I'm luminescent, if you will. All right, listen, let's go ahead. Let's get down to brass tacks. So on today's episode, we are going to run through our 2024 predictions. If you want to see it from the whole Royals Review crew, you got to go check out royalsreview.com. Max, you got a hell of a squad there for the predictions, right? That was a pretty big group.
Yeah, I think everyone likes giving their predictions for the year, even though they all turn out to be wrong. I think if you look back at last year's predictions, they're so off. No one picked Arizona and Texas in the World Series, so it's just for fun. It's thank God we're not putting any money on this. At least I hope we're not. Maybe Shohei Ohtani's interpreter is, but we're not putting any money on this stuff.
Well, listen, it's I'm looking back at 2023. I thought Zach Greinke was going to be the best Royals pitcher, and boy was I wrong. Boy was I wrong.
I can see why you thought that at the beginning of the year, though, looking at the rotation that they had.
Almost by default. Yeah, he had to be the
best. Yeah. Let's see, who was, I thought the White Sox were going to make the postseason. I thought the Angels were going to be a wild card team.
Oh, my goodness.
This did not go over very well. But hey, if you want to, that's so 2023. That's last year. We're worrying about this year, okay? Where every take is new and fresh and original, and certainly not going to go wrong, right, Jeremy?
Absolutely. I gave all my picks as part of our preview thread, and I stand by those. All of those things are definitely going to happen, including the Royals winning 84 games, but not the division. But Bobby Witt Jr. will win MVP, and Cole Reagans will win the Cy Young Award. Somehow,
Yeah.
all of those things will happen simultaneously.
Obviously. So hey, we do have a long list of things to run through, so we'll get started on that here shortly. But throughout the episode, you will be hearing from other Royals content creators out there, guys like Jack Johnson, Preston Farr, and many, many more on what they think will happen with the Royals in 2024. Guys, we ready to hop right in?
Yes.
All right,
Do it.
let's do it. So Max, I'm gonna put you on the spot first, man. What are you thinking the Royals 2024 record is gonna look like?
I have them at 75 wins. I think that's kind of where the middle ground is for predictions this year for the Royals. That's kind of where I think Zips has them. I think Zips has them for 76 wins. Yeah, I think they'll make some strides. I do think the floor has been raised for the pitching staff, but I don't think there's still a lot of depth there, and we have a bunch of starting pitchers who have not pitched a lot of innings the last year or two. Which let's see how Cole Reagans stands up to a full season. Let's see how Brady Singer stands up to pitching, making 30 starts. Let's see how Seth Lugo and Michael Walker really haven't pitched last year. They didn't pitch a ton of innings. They're on the wrong side of 30, so that gives me a little pause. I think the offense still is missing some pieces. They really need somebody else to step up, MJ Melendez or Michael Massey, or maybe someone that's kind of a surprise. Maybe a Nelson Velasquez. So there's still some missing pieces, but they should be significantly better this year. 76 wins or 75 wins is a 19 game improvement. That's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
So, I still think there's a ways to go before contention.
Okay. Jeremy, what do you think, man?
Yeah, so as I said, kind of spoiled it, I guess, a little bit. I'm
Yeah.
going 84 wins, baby. Gonna get back over 500 for the first time since 2016. Gonna go out there. Michael Massey's gonna break out. Bobby Witt Jr.'s for real. Cole Reagans is for real. James MacArthur, John McMillan for real. Michael Massey, Maikel Garcia gonna break out in a big way. And the Royals, they're gonna cruise into second place in the AL Central.
Dang, into second place, and you still think 84 wins is only going to get them second place? Good.
I mean,
what are you thinking?
it's hard to say that 84 wins can win a division, even the AL Central.
Oh no, the AL Central's pretty damn bad. You know that.
But that would have them in contention the last week of the season.
Exactly. That's all I'm asking for, after the last few years and after, most of my Royals fandom is please be in contention in July, August, even September. It's so exhausting to get to May and be like, nope, not happening this year. And I've still got the whole season.
Yep. That's when we start looking at the trade deadline content and hey, what's this prospect doing down on the farm? Are they going to fix things? But that's down the road, and hopefully we don't encounter that this year. I'm going to toot my own horn, guys. I'm feeling pretty boisterous right now. I was closest on the record prediction last year. Okay, I was closest at 67 or at 67 and 95. All right. The only sub 70 pick right there. All right. And unfortunately, our guy Greg Walker took that distinguished spot this year, predicting a 68 win season. Unfortunately, I'm kind of middle of the road, just like Max is. I'm predicting a 75 win season. I'm going 75 and 87. Kind of akin to the Tigers of 2023, going to have some injury trouble, going to have some really, really hot spurts and look like a team to watch in 2025. But ultimately, there's just there's too many things that can go wrong for my liking to truly crown this team as the AL Central team to beat right now. Thankfully, they get to open up the season against the AL Central team to beat in Kauffman Stadium this week, the Minnesota Twins. And that's going to be an excellent pitching matchup on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, guys. Like it's going to be a great one to watch. I'm going to put y'all on the spot again. Max, do you think the Royals win the season opener in Kauffman Stadium?
I think I haven't seen the official numbers on this. I think the Royals have the worst record in opening day out of all 30
Oof.
MLB teams. They just and even when they were good in the 80s, I just remember as a kid they always lose on opening day. So I know that shouldn't have anything to do with this year's team, but I'm just used to the Royals losing on opening day, and also they seem to lose a lot when I'm theirs, and I'm going to be there Thursday. So I'll say they'll drop the opener, but then go on to win the series against the Twins.
Oh,
Ooh.
dang. Okay, Max, I like it. What do you think, Jeremy? You putting money down on the Royals?
I put some money down because North Carolina just finally got legal betting. So I was like, all the betting apps are like, if you give us $5, we'll let you bet $300. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'll bet $300 imaginary dollars on the Royals winning the division. So I did that. I didn't bet on opening day, but Cole Reagans is going, and Pablo Lopez is pitching for the Twins. But Cole Reagans, Cy Young Award winner. He's gonna be. So they're gonna win. It's gonna happen. Mark it
All
down.
right. I'm right there with you, Jeremy. The Royals are plus 100 odds right now on DraftKings to win Game 1 against the Minnesota Twins, and I like those odds. I really do. Now Pablo Lopez, he is frankly, for lack of better terms, he has handed the Royals ass on a platter to them too many times to count. All right, it is 2023. He was not very kind to the Royals. But I really think that if this team wants to prove that they are different in their 2023 iteration and they are for real, one, they have to produce against top tier talent, which Pablo Lopez is one, in my opinion. And plus, you had that historic offensive drought to start off last year. Do y'all remember that?
Yeah.
We got to put those memories far behind, and we better not go like a full month with less than 20 runs or whatever the heck it was. It was bad. I just repressed that from my memory, honestly.
If they get off to a slow start offensively like that, how loud are the Nick Prado calls going to come?
Oh my god!
Especially if he gets off to a good start in Omaha.
If Vinny's still knocking off the rust and people are like, Nick Prado is a first rounder for a reason. He's the guy. No. I hope that we don't have a slow offensive start, kind of specifically for that reason. Love you, Nick, but
I'm waiting for people to be like, cut Hunter Renfroe a week into the season. Cut Hunter Renfroe and bring us Nick Prado. He can play right field, probably.
Maybe. I think. What, right field and first base? What's the difference, right? It's the same side of the field. Oh my goodness! All right, I'm getting a little too kooky over here. I'm just ready for opening day, guys, as you can tell. So, Jeremy, you already alluded to this question, but placing in AL Central, you said second, correct?
Yeah, I think the Twins are going to beat them out, probably with like 85 or 86 wins. It's going to be a tough, tight race. But I just don't think the Royals. I think they'll have a couple key injuries that just keep them from quite getting there.
Okay,
Max, what do you think on placing in the division?
I have them at third. I think the Twins are actually going to be pretty good. I think people are underselling the Central a little bit. I think the Twins are going to win like 92 games, 94 games. And then Cleveland is going to be kind of 78, 79 wins. And then the Royals and Tigers are all going to be kind of lumped together. Not terrible teams, but all kind of 75 to 78 win teams. And then the White Sox I think they're going to lose 100. They're bad.
I think they're
a bad team.
It's going to be rough to be a Chicago White Sox fan this season for sure. I guess I got to go with Max on this. Third seems most likely for a 75 win team. It really does. It would take some pretty poor performances from the Guardians and the Tigers for the Royals to finish second with 75 wins. I'm pretty low on the Guardians right now. I think this is going to be that year that we finally see this mirage around the Cleveland franchise kind of dissipate. But I do think the Twins end up on top. barring any major injuries to their players. Let's
It just seems like
see.
it's the division that's not going to have much offense. I mean, Cleveland's going to struggle to score runs all year.
Yeah.
And Detroit, they've got a couple intriguing young hitters. I mean, I think Colt Keith is going to be really good as a rookie at second base. Torkelson is, he's got power. I don't know that he's a complete player really. And then the books, I think Riley Green, I guess maybe turned a corner last year, but I don't know what his potential is. But they're still a team that has a lot of holes in their lineup. So and the Royals are right in there. I mean, the Royals, obviously have some good hitters, but not a whole lot of depth in that lineup. So they're all kind of three similar teams. They've got some interesting pitching, not a lot of runs scored. So it'll I can see the Royals finishing second, but maybe having 76 wins.
That'd be pretty piss poor in the AL Central. Jeremy, do you think we're giving too much credit to the Twins for their finish last year? I mean, they lost a good amount of talent in
I,
free agency.
I just keep looking at the hole in the rotation where Sonny Gray used to be. And I go, how can they be a better team minus the AL Cy Young Award winner? And they've still got Pablo Lopez. They've got a couple other guys that look pretty good, but they didn't really fill that hole. Last time I checked, and this may have changed, the only free agent signings they had made were Carlos Santana and Josh Staumont, which do not seem like needle movers to me. So I get it. Like, they've still got Carlos Correa. They've got some real good young hitters there, but I have a hard time believing in them.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think
Matt?
it's a testament to their kind of organization pumping out talent. I mean, they've done a pretty good job churning out pitchers. We're just they can let a guy like Sonny Gray kind of walk because last year they had a pretty good amount of starting pitching depth, and Chris Paddock, who was supposed to be a guy they were relying on last year, he didn't pitch much at all last year. I think they're kind of counting on him to come back. So yeah, and they're kind of hit with injuries early on this year. I think their closer Joan Duran is out at the start of the year. Cale Thielbar, I think, is out. He's not going to be available this first week. So they'll have some injuries, but they've got some good young talent coming up. Royce Lewis I think he's a really impressive young hitter. They've got at third base this year. So there's going to be some guys I think come up and make an impact. But you're right. They didn't really make any additions at all, which is probably why they're going to win 92 games and then get bounced in the first round of the playoffs like they always do.
Yeah.
That's looking likely. Yeah, listen, it's kind of a coin toss right now before a single game is played between which rotation I would take of Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Chris Paddock, and Louis Varland between the Royals rotation. Because Lopez, Ryan, and Ober, like that's a legit 1-2-3, kind of a uncommon thing in MLB. But like right now, it seems like the Royals have that. Like I'm not even that mad that Brady Singer is going to get the start on Sunday. I don't want to say presumptive, but the apparent third pitcher in the rotation, leaving Michael Wacha to start off against the Baltimore Orioles. But I think that's just to give Wacha more time to rest after he took that comebacker to the hand. So I don't know. This is definitely something I think we're going to be talking about down the road. A lot of the AL Central hopes are going to be riding on the starting rotations and the bullpens. I don't think there's enough offensive firepower in the division to really make that the sticking point, if you know what I mean. Especially when when the Twins are relying on Carlos Santana as their starting first baseman heading into opening day.
Did they actually name him the starting first baseman?
That's what Fangraphs and ESPN
Oh
have
my
as
goodness.
their starting first baseman. And it's not like they have other great options. Christian Vasquez could get the start, Kyle Farmer, but both those guys they're all pretty much the same, it
Meh.
seems.
Alex
So,
Kirilloff, I think, could get some time there, but yeah, it's not great. Yeah, I mean, Carlos Santana actually wasn't bad. I think we're jaded because he was so terrible with us, but
yeah.
like the last few years, he's actually been kind of like okay for other teams, which kind of makes you wonder what was going on in Kansas City. But yeah, first base is definitely kind of their weak spot on the lineup. But when they've got up the middle, they're pretty strong. Byron Buxton, if he's healthy, in center.
If he's
Carlos Correa,
healthy.
he can bounce back. So they've got and Edouard Julien at second base. They've got some depth there. So they're not going to be a juggernaut offensively. Pitching is definitely their strong point, but I think they'll score a decent amount of runs compared to like the Royals and the Guardians.
Okay. Anything else on the AL Central before we move on, guys?
How many former Royals are on the White Sox right now?
So many.
Gosh.
Mike Moustakas didn't make it, though. They could have at least kept him on for nostalgia's sake.
I saw Tim Hill join the White Sox. I missed that one.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe he's still pitching, honestly.
Let's see here. We got Benny, of course. We got Martin Maldonado. We got Nicky Lopez. Let's see here. I'm just going through their Fangraphs doesn't even have a fifth starter for them. That's how bad their rotation is.
I think
they
said they were going to wait a little bit on that, but yeah, it's a lot of there's a lot of former Royals on that team. And
there really is.
Not going to be very good. A lot of guys that should be in AAA too.
Yeah. That's
we know what that's like though.
Yeah.
I feel like how we're looking at the Chicago White Sox is how folks were looking at the Royals last year.
Right.
Let's be honest. All right, guys. So let's talk about some individual players. We talked about the team performance, but there's a lot of pieces that fit into that team. Let's talk about some more improved pieces. But before that, we are going to hear from some other Royals minds and fans out there on what they think for 2024.
Hello, Royals Rundown listeners. This is Greg Walker, staff writer at Royals Review, coming to you with some preseason predictions for the 2024 Kansas City Royals, starting with their win total. I think the Royals will win 68 games this year. That might sound pessimistic, but I think people are overrating the quantity of free agents they signed rather than the quality of free agents they signed. I still think there is not enough here, especially offensively. So give me 68 wins for the Royals. I think that will be good for fourth in the American League Central. They should be better than the train wreck that is the 2024 Chicago White Sox, but I think they will be hard-pressed to finish above the Detroit Tigers or the Cleveland Guardians. Never mind the Minnesota Twins, who I think will finish at the top of this division. Most improved player for me will be Maikel Garcia. I've been low on the guy's bat for quite some time, but the batted ball data for him was very impressive in 2023, even if the results weren't there. And then he torched the Venezuelan Winter League over the offseason. So I'm looking for Maikel Garcia to have a breakout season offensively at the dish. My player or prospect to watch is going to be left-handed pitcher Hunter Owen, drafted out of Vanderbilt in the 2023 MLB draft. I watched him quite a bit in college, and while he wasn't often healthy, when he was absolutely dominating SEC hitters. The issue has just been health for him. And so, assuming that he can be healthy this spring in the Royals minor league system, he's got a starter's frame, he's got huge stuff on the left side. So look for him to shoot up Royals prospect lists, assuming he can actually pitch to minor league hitters. For Cole Reagan's win totals, I'm going to go with 5. I think he's really, really good. I'm just convinced he's going to break. I'm not convinced he's going to stay healthy. And so I really hope he does, because I think he is a very good pitcher. I don't deny the talent. I just think he's going to pitch like 50 innings this year. So give me 5 wins. Bobby Witt Jr. home run total, give me 35. 40 seems a little bit too ambitious, but 35 seems achievable. Thank you, Royals fans. And remember, vote no on 1.
Baseball season is on its way, and there's no better place to spend the summer than with the Quad Cities River Bandits. From the Royals' top prospects on the field to a jam-packed promotional schedule, the fun never stops at Modern Woodman Park. Can't miss any of the action? Ticket packages are on sale now, with full season plans starting at less than $5 per game. Season ticket holders enjoy premium perks, including guaranteed giveaways, team store discounts, a full season parking pass, and so much more. For more information, visit riverbandits.com or call 563-324-3000.
This is Brian Henry, who writes under Royal Treatment at Royals Review. I think this team's going 80 and 82 because that seems like a very Royals forward step to take and finish third in the AL Central. They'll either end up behind the Twins plus the Tigers or the Twins plus the Guardians. Most improved, I think, is going to be Michael Massey. He just seems like he's going to have a pretty good year, and after last year, he really only has improvement to show. So it should be, even if he's only pretty good, that it looks a lot better than last year. The guy I'll be watching the most from a player prospect standpoint is Nelson Velasquez. The power is legit, and if he can kind of solidify that 4, 5, 6 part of the lineup, that lineup gets a lot longer and more dangerous. So hopefully a lot of home runs coming out of him. Cole Reagans probably wins, 40, 50 games, something like that. No, seriously, maybe 14? I don't know. On this team, it's going to be hard to win a ridiculous amount, I think. And we'll see how his arm holds up. The most I'm going to be watching every time he goes out is that his elbow doesn't explode. That's all I really want to know. And finally, Bobby is going to hit 33 dingers.
All righty. Thank you very much, guys. So, Jeremy, I'm going to start off with you on this. Who's your most improved player and why for 2024?
So I think I talked about him a little bit last episode, and I know everyone thinks I'm going to say the guy who's presumed to start at second base, but I'm going to say the third baseman, Maikel Garcia.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people are very high on him, and he started off really well last year, but he cooled off a lot by the end of the season. That said, as we kind of discussed last time, his time in winter ball in Venezuela and his spring training has convinced me that he might be able to tap into some of that hard hit rate that he was exhibiting last year, even though he was kind of hitting it on the ground. He looks like he might be able to take a few more walks, and he's already got the third base defense. So I think I advocated, I think, all offseason, trade him to somebody who needs a shortstop, because he could play shortstop and that bat will play at shortstop. But now I'm starting to believe the bat could play at third base and that he can be a real asset for this team.
Okay. Max, who's your pick, and do you have any thoughts on Maikel Garcia?
Well, Garcia, I think, is an excellent pick. I think Mike Petrello of MLB.com, who's an excellent analyst, he actually tweeted out that he thinks Garcia is going to be a big breakout guy this year, just citing his performance in the winter leagues this year and in spring training. Said like his metrics look really good. There's a lot of reason to be very optimistic about Garcia, and he really doesn't have to hit that much to be, with the defense and the speed he provides and his ability to get on base. Like, he doesn't. The power would be nice, but he certainly doesn't have to hit more than 10 home runs to be a really valuable player. So I think that's a really good pick. I'll go with Brady Singer. I think he's kind of fallen into kind of become a whipping boy for a lot of fans just because of his inability to develop a third pitch. But he was pretty good in 2022 with just 2 pitches, pretty much. And last year, I think he was kind of hurt by his participation in the World Baseball Classic. They changed pitching coaches, and I don't know how much he's been able to kind of really work with Brian Sweeney since he had a truncated spring training last year because of the Classic. So I think there's reason to be optimistic he can bounce back. I think his numbers were pretty dismal last year, but that's not who he is. I think he's at least a solid number 3, number 4 pitcher. If you're not counting on him to be your ace, I think he can be a really solid pitcher for you. And so I like Brady Singer to bounce back. And if he can bounce back and we get kind of the floor that we think we can get from the other guys in that rotation, that's a pretty good rotation that I think the Royals can hang their hat on.
Yeah, certainly seems like it, and it's hard to disagree with Brady Singer, because kind of in this whole offseason process, he's been the presumptive 4th starting pitcher in the rotation, and I don't know, him adding those pitches in spring, maybe that's showing he's feeling a little bit of the heat on his rotational seat. So I'm interested to see some more of the advanced metrics on his stuff, how it's developed, and how it looks in maybe 1 month's time. Guys, I got to pick MJ Melendez. I really do. I will admit my bias, though. I interviewed Merv Melendez this afternoon, his father, and just talking about his offseason process and what they did this offseason and how it was different, and just talking about some of the challenges that he saw his son go through in 2023. It sounds like the outlook is there, the mental fortitude, I guess is the word, is there as well. And Merv was right. This is the first offseason that MJ Melendez has had where he is able to focus on just being an outfielder. So maybe that bumps up the defensive metrics a little bit more. Really, a lot of his value relies on him just getting on base. I feel like keeping that rotation, or that lineup moving along. And he showed a good ability to draw walks, more his minor league clip as well this spring. So I'm very excited to see what MJ Melendez has. Guys, any closing thoughts before we move on?
About Brady Singer, I just wanted to throw out there that the thing that most excites me about him is that if he isn't good, he's going to be in the bullpen. He's not going to be able to just stick in the rotation all year like he did last year, no matter how well he pitches. So he's going to have to. I think in the past, it's been kind of apparent that he's been resistant to change in a lot of ways, and I think that is going to lead to him, taking an opportunity to listen to these coaches and really make that effort to improve.
Yeah, certainly seems like it. Max, do you concur?
Yeah, I think there's a change in kind of attitude of the whole organization of just like, we're not going to just give you guys spots because you're a first round pick or whatever. Like if he doesn't perform, I can see that him going to the bullpen. I can see him being a really good reliever too. Like, and that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But I think he can be a solid starter if he makes those adjustments and kind of gets back to what worked for him in 2022. And if he adds a third pitch, that'd be great too. But he's a guy that certainly has a potential to be a solid mid rotation guy.
I like it. So let's go ahead and move on to a player or a prospect that you guys are watching for. This could be, just watching for, are they going to stand up across the whole 2024 season? Do you think they had a strong off season, and why? Max, I'd like to go ahead and start off with you. Who's a guy that's standing out to you?
Well, just a guy I'm watching is kind of, and not because of him so much, but what he represents, is James MacArthur. I know he's just going to be like a middle reliever for the Royals this year. But if the Royals want to get to where they want to be and be like the Orioles and Rays, who I think are the kind of the model organizations right now, they really need to find guys off the freely available talent and turn them into really solid pitchers for this pitching staff. Because you look at the Rays pitching staff, it's not all guys they've drafted. It's guys they've acquired in trades, off waivers. Same with the Orioles. Like, it's not guys that they've all drafted in the first round of the draft and signed, developed. It's guys that just picked up off, seemingly, off the street in baseball terms, and developed into really solid pitchers because they refined their slider, or they tweaked their delivery or whatever. And they did that with MacArthur by kind of emphasizing his curveball, saying, "Hey, you got a really good spin on your curve. Let's really hone in on that." And he ended up, after a rough debut, turned it around and became one of the most solid relievers. So if they could have a few more success stories like that, then they don't have to trade for a John Schreiber or sign a Will Smith. They can find those guys and save those resources for free agents towards other areas like starting pitching, which is a lot more expensive, or hitters that can actually make a big impact on this lineup.
Okay. Jeremy, on to you, and plus add your thoughts on Max's pick.
Are the Royals allowed to sign hitters that can make a big impact? Is that legal? I feel like it might not be legal based on kind of how they've approached things. I kid, but the guy I'm watching is Alec Marsh. I loved him last year. I've been a big kind of fan of his. The strikeouts are there. The strikeouts have been there from day one. And when you've got a guy who's performing at a high level at even one aspect of the job, you're just like, okay, but just you're so close. Just get over that hump. And he in spring training, it looks like he did. He wasn't walking guys as much. And if that holds, because the thing last year was he had the strikeouts, it was the combination of the walks and the home runs that killed him. And if he can just bring one of those down, suddenly this rotation goes from okay, but to a rotation where it's like even their fifth guy is a little scary. And so that's what I'm kind of counting on is Alec Marsh. I think maybe he's figured something out. He was much more, it wasn't even just the lack of walks. He was very efficient with his pitches, as we've talked about in previous episodes, where there was one game at least where he was so efficient that after he pitched his innings, he had to go in the bullpen and throw extra pitches. So that's a guy who's also going to get deeper into the game and take some of that pressure off of the bullpen. And there was a lot of pressure on a bullpen that was very bad last year. So getting their starters to actually go even 6 innings is going to be huge for taking their new bullpen depth and really letting it shine.
I like that, Jeremy. I didn't even think about that. I'm a little. I've been a little low on Alec Marsh. I am glad that he got that nod as the fifth man in the rotation to start off the year. And I think he will do. He'll either look really great against the Orioles or he's gonna get shellacked. There's only one way to find out what happens, though. I have a cop out answer, guys. I'm really watching Vinny Pasquantino with a close eye. I think we may have been a little premature in crowning him. I will say that this guy still has a lot of MLB seasoning that he needs. He's only got 133 career games in the show. He doesn't even have 600 plate appearances. Like, if this was any other guy with his performance, we'd be saying like, okay, let's cool our jets. But, with when he was away during 2023, we all kind of got some rose-colored glasses about Vinny Pasquantino, I think. He didn't have a super strong spring either. He showed a little bit of that rust. He ended up having some good individual games. So I have hope for him, but he does have a really important part in the long-term Royals plan. What is their backup plan at first base outside of Vinny Pasquantino? You could say Nick Pratto, you really can, but they've already tried to move him around in the field. So I'm not sold that this organization has a solid plan behind Vinny Pasquantino. So he's a sink or swim time, in my opinion. Max, Jeremy, anything else before we get on out of here?
I'll add one more name. Nelson Velasquez, I think, is kind of important this year. He came on 14 home runs in 2 months after the Royals acquired him. It could be a fluke, but I don't know. There's Shane Spencers of the world. Sometimes you see flukes like that over a 2-month period, but
Ryan
O'Hearn, yeah. So I guess he hasn't proven anything yet, but if that power is close to being real. And we've seen this before. Raul Ibanez was a guy like this who just kind of came out of nowhere with the Royals and became a really solid power hitter. 350 major league home runs in his career. That happens from time to time. Nelson Cruz is kind of a guy he reminds me of a little bit. He's a guy that bounced around a lot early in his career before he kind of settled in and established himself. So Velasquez, I think, the on base, scares me a little bit. The fact that he's pretty much just a DH, pretty bad defensively. I went to a game last year where the ball just like popped out of his glove. He was in the right place and just popped out of his glove. I'm like, okay, this guy's pretty brutal defensively. But if he hits 20 to 30 home runs, I don't think anyone will mind, and he'll have a place in this lineup. So they could really use a guy like that, kind of solidifying that lineup. That'll make it easier for a guy like Vinny Pasquantino too.
Okay. I just got to defend my guy Vinny. I was hearing great things about him. I predicted him actually for the opening day roster, 2022, and he didn't quite make it, obviously. But all the guy has done is hit. He doesn't, like you said, he doesn't have a ton of major league games yet, but he's hit at every level. Just because he didn't have kind of the prospect pedigree of like, oh, he's in all these top 100 lists. I think that's where people come from, and they're like, oh, should we really believe in him? But he's got the numbers to back it up. I think he's going to be fine.
Okay. Hey, I'm always happy to be proven wrong when it comes to the Royals. I really am. All right, we got a couple more individual things to get through, but first let's hear from some more of our fellow Royals creators out there.
This is Jack Johnson from the Locked On Royals podcast. For my season prediction win total for the Royals, I got them at 79 and 83, which would put them in about third place to answer those first two questions. I'm kind of going to go in between what I think for the floor and what the ceiling could be, and I think the ceiling is about 86 to 88 wins, and I think the floor is about 68 to 70 wins, so kind of meeting in the middle there. I know it's more on the higher end. I'm going to go with about 79 to 83, finishing third in the American League Central. As for the most improved player, I'm going to go with MJ Melendez. I've stayed pretty consistent with that this offseason. I really think that if he can get off to a hot start in April, that's going to lead him the rest of the way. And I think he can be one of the more reliable bats in that lineup, probably, top 4, top 5 if all things go well for him. I think I'll set it somewhere between 13 and 15. Hopefully he can get a little bit more than that, but it can always be up in the air with pitching wins in Major League Baseball. It really comes down to, Can your offense give you enough support, and can your bullpen hold it down late? As for a prospect to watch, I'm going to go Blake Wolters. When I was down in Surprise, that's the guy I heard about the most. Really electric fastball, really has a great arsenal. I think it'll be a really fast rise to the system, though the Royals don't really need to rush him. And as for the home run total for Bobby Witt Jr., hard not to go over 30. I think he leads this team in home runs. He's going to get a ton of at-bats, and I think he's going to be better than he was last year. I mean, you think about where he was in the first half compared to the second half, he really took off in the second half, and that's what got him over 30. If he can be just half that in the first half, you could be talking about a 33 to 35, maybe 36, 37 home run guy for the Royals at shortstop, which would put him in contention as one of the MVP candidates for the American League. So those are all of my answers to the questions, and hoping for a win tomorrow on opening day.
All righty, thank you all very much. So, Jeremy, you are the conductor of the Cole train this off season.
At least until Chris Bubich comes back.
You had to get your side piece, if you will, in Cole Reagan's.
I have needs. They involve left-handed starting pitchers.
I like it. So, real quick, you put it out there as a question to ask, and I was like, I don't know, pitching wins are kind of an arbitrary number, but it is an important thing. It's still like a historical stat in baseball right now. So, Jeremy, how many wins do you think Cole Reagan's gets this season?
I mean, yeah, they're an arbitrary stat, so you don't want to like base your future predictions on how good Cole Reagan's is on how many wins he gets this year, but they're still fun to talk about.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to throw kind of a number at the wall a little bit here. 16. I think he gets 16 wins. The Royals aren't going to be good enough for him to get to 20, but he's going to be too good to not win a whole bunch.
Okay. Max, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I kind of reject the premise of the question. Like, pitcher wins. I don't know. 16 wins. Like, you know how many pitchers got 16 wins last year in Major League Baseball? 5. Five pitchers won 16 wins.
Top 5 pitcher in the AL. Or in MLB. That's Cole Reagan. This is going to happen.
Yeah, so I don't like 13. I don't know. And he'll have a very good year. I think he'll be a 4 or 5 win pitcher, like wins above replacement. But I don't know as far as actual wins. I'll say 14. Let's say it gets 14 and 6 with a bunch of no decisions because Carlos Hernandez is called up and blows a lot of games.
Dang. Carlos catching strays out here. He's not even on the opening day roster, man. Come on now. I'm playing it safe here. I'm going to say 12. All right, I really am. I think that Cole is going to miss a couple of starts throughout the year. I don't think he's going to be a 30 start guy. I think he's going to be settling down in that 27-28 range when it's all said and done. That's just how it goes sometimes with these hard throwing lefties. You get a little bit more wear and tear on there. But I also think the Royals are going to royal, and they're going to let down their starting pitcher from time to time. It happened too often to Zach Greinke last year, and I think Cole Reagan's might be the recipient of that bad juju, if you will. Let's move on to the poster boy of the Kansas City Royals, the superstar, the franchise, Bobby Witt Jr. So, Jeremy, you also put this question out there. How many home runs does Bobby Witt Jr. hit in 2024?
So when I came up with this question, right, I said plus or minus 5 because it's hard to predict a specific number of home runs. And I wanted to give myself a chance to be right. So he hit 20 in his rookie year. He hit 30 last year. I'm going to say plus or minus 5, 35.
Ooh, man.
Hey, I think the floor is at least 30 again, and I think he could go as high as 40.
Max, are you that bullish on Bobby Witt Jr.?
No, well, I think he's going to go down in the home run total to 26, but I think it's because pitchers are going to pitch around him a little bit more. I think he's going to draw more walks, and I think he's going to be a more polished overall hitter this year. So he'll actually be a more valuable hitter with slightly fewer home runs. So I'll put 26 home runs on the board for him.
Okay. I'm going to go 30. I really am. I'm pretty bullish. The word that I'm trying to say, bullish on his power, and I think that He's got a little bit more of a mature plate approach right now. We saw that later on in the 2023 season. Even if these pitchers are trying to work around him, if he can go deeper into those counts, he's going to get some more pitches that he can turn on. And we saw that this spring. He tied for the team lead with 4 home runs. Now, of course, that's an Arizona desert number, so take that with a grain of salt. But 165 weighted runs created plus down in Arizona will absolutely play. I agree with you, Max. I think that he is overall going to be a more stable and valuable batter in the Royals lineup. Jeremy, what do you think about that?
I think that's entirely possible. A lot of whether he's going to get pitched around is going to depend on who's hitting behind him and how they're doing. If he's batting ahead of Salvador Perez all year and Salvi is playing like he did last year, he's going to have to take walks to be valuable. But if he's ahead of, say, Vinny Pasquantino and he's producing, or if Salvi bounces back, or, some other combination of Bobby Witt getting to hit in front of someone else who's at least a little scary, then I think he's might get a few pitches to hit and he'll have plenty of opportunities to hit them.
I like it. Well, guys, we're going to go ahead and get the last batch of these pre-recorded messages out of the way, and then we'll start wrapping this up.
Hello, my name is Preston. I'm a writer for Royals Review and Prospects Live and Farm to Fountains. And these are my Royals predictions for 2024. For the record, I have the Royals finishing 78 and 84. Obviously, that's a huge improvement over last year. They spent money to improve, but I still don't think they'll make the playoffs. I have them finishing third in the Central. I've got the Tigers and Twins finishing ahead of them. I think Cleveland will be pretty close to the same range, but, maybe just behind Kansas City. Most improved player this year and why? MJ Melendez comes to mind. I think he's definitely taken a step forward. We saw last year in the second half how solid he was. I think we'll just see some of that continue this year. I don't think he'll be quite as good as he was over the second half, but at least league average, maybe 5 or 10% better than league average. I do think he has 30 home run potential. I don't know if he'll get there this year, but it's definitely in there. Prospect to watch, keep your eyes on Carson Rocafort. I think he is the real deal prospect. He's a center fielder, true center fielder, plays excellent defense. Really the biggest question for him this season is just going to be how much power can he create with the bat. His swing, smooth, I like the mechanics, and something he's mentioned this offseason, he worked on, generating more power and just maintaining that patient approach at the plate. So I can't say enough about Carson Rocafort. Next question: how many wins does Cole Reagans get? Who cares? I don't care about pitcher wins. Sorry, I'm not going to answer that because I don't think it matters. But I do have him projected at 116 innings pitched. I don't think the Royals are going to push him too far with the innings coming, off of 2 Tommy Johns in the last few years. But I still think he does pretty solid, makes about 26 starts. I've got his ERA at 4.39, which doesn't seem like amazing. I get it, but, there's going to be some regression this season. He was facing the league, looked different at the end of last year. There's going to be a lot more game plans out there to, target his arsenal. Even with the higher ERA, it came out to a 3.93 FIP, which I think you'll definitely be happy with. At least I would. And I have him at 123 strikeouts in 116 innings. So still a solid pitcher. I don't know if he's going to be top 10 like some guys are saying and some people are predicting, but still should have a pretty solid year. Last but not least, how many home runs does Bobby Witt Jr. hit? I don't think when I made projections, I don't think anybody liked my Bobby Witt Jr. projections, but I don't care. I think projections, you really should focus more on, 50th percentile outcomes. And as great as he was last year, he's got the potential to be an MVP candidate. I'm not saying that he doesn't. I'm not saying he won't be better. I just think if you look at all the range of outcomes, the most likely scenario that I had him at was right around 30 home runs again. I have him at 29 home runs. I think he'll walk a little more than we've seen in the past. He'll still have a great season. I have the slash line at 272, 337, 482, which I think we'd be happy with. But yeah, don't send me anything on Twitter complaining because I've already heard enough. Thanks.
Game day internship with the Omaha Storm Chasers is the perfect opportunity for a college student interested in exploring a career in the sports industry. Storm Chasers interns have the chance to work in almost every aspect of game day and event operations at Warner Park, while gaining knowledge about the inner workings of minor league baseball. There's no better way to learn and grow while discovering your passions and goals than becoming a part of our Chasers family. To learn more about internship opportunities with the Storm Chasers, head to OmahaStormChasers.com or email Ania Tate, ANIYAT, at OmahaStormChasers.com.
Everyone get on your feet, stir up the storm, we're family.
Hi, I'm Zach Miller. I'm a writer at Farm to Fountains, and just had a few predictions here for you. I think in 2024 the Royals record is going to be about 75 and 87 in that ballpark. I really want to be more optimistic that they can compete for the division, but I think I also don't want to be super disappointed. So pitching side, starting rotation and bullpen, just having increased depth and just veteran presence there. I think that's going to kick them to around adding another 20 wins compared to last year. Hopefully I'm wrong and it's a little bit higher, but I'd definitely take a 19-win improvement over last year. So I think that'll put them around third in the AL Central. I think the Twins and potentially Tigers will be competing at the top. I mean, the Guardians, obviously have a chance to be up there. I think the most improved player is going to be MJ Melendez. I just say that because of his just performance post All-Star break in 2023. Really seemed to find a groove. I think the prospect to watch, honestly, I'm really liking what Trevor Werner did in low A last year. He was, I believe, the September player of the month for the Carolina League. Had I believe maybe 9 home runs, 40 RBIs, something like that. Power profile is definitely there, and that showed the spring breakout game. Hit another home run here just about a week ago or so. I think Cole Reagans gets about 13 wins. I also don't want to get overly optimistic. I think he might come down to earth just slightly, maybe have a record something like 13-8. I think Bobby has... honestly, it'll probably be plus or minus 30. I mean, I'll set it at 32. I think that would be a fair number. Get a couple more than last season, especially if he starts any hotter. Wouldn't be hard to start hotter than he did last year. I know he was off to a pretty slow start for the first half of the season. If he can even be a little bit more productive in the first half, he should be able to get to 32, I would think, potentially even more. So those are some of my predictions. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
All righty, thank you all very, very much. So before we get to our Spotify Q&A answers and our Royals reviews, Jeremy, you mentioned it earlier on in the episode. I'm not talking about the QT refreshment porch or whatever the heck it is. I'm talking about on Sunday. You spoke about bringing the mood back down. What you got cooking for Sunday, man?
Yeah, so I got my hands on the Royals quote-unquote collective bargaining agreement, or excuse me, community benefits agreement. They're both CBAs, so I keep getting them confused. Community benefits agreement, and hopefully everyone has seen the video I posted on social media earlier today as we're recording this. It's not a CBA, it's just charitable donations, and there's more to come. I just kind of covered like the biggest points in that video because you got to keep it under. I don't pay for Twitter Premium, so I got to keep it under 2 minutes 20 seconds. But I've got even more details to go into, and I'm going to have an article that'll probably go up Monday morning, just trying to outline all of the ways in which the team is kind of failing the city when it comes to building this new stadium. And since we're on the subject, I'll just go ahead and mention the whole they don't even know where they're building it right now thing where the mayor says, hey, don't destroy Oak Boulevard or whatever that street name is. And they're like, oh, we'll figure that out sometime after April 2nd. Just go ahead and give us your money, please. So the whole thing continues to be a complete shambles. I want to be hyped about opening day. I'm going to try and like put this out of my mind and come back to it after the game tomorrow and write this article. Because I am excited for baseball. It's been a long spring training. Feels like the longest spring training ever to me. I know it hasn't been, but that's how it feels. So I'm ready for some real baseball. And at this point, all I can do is report on the facts that I've got from these collective bargaining. I did it again, community benefits agreements, and hope that people, make the right choice when it comes to voting on Tuesday.
Yep, the best decision is an educated decision, and that's all we can ask for when it comes to voting, in my opinion. Max, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you think that this whole voting process and like I'm seeing it flood on social media? Just you post anything Royals related, and it's vote no, vote yes, and this is why, and it's just consuming the Royals fan base. It feels like do you think it's overshadowing opening day a bit?
I don't know if it's overshadowing open day. It definitely has been polarizing, but I think it's been kind of the loudest people. There's some voices and they're the loudest voices, but then it's interesting. Like I always forget that there's a lot of people that are pretty not politically engaged, that don't know what's going on necessarily, that are just kind of, they're running ads in Kansas City now on this, on both sides, probably more on the vote yes side, but I'm starting to see vote no sides, commercials. And you have to remember that some people are just finding out about this for the first time, really, in the last week. And then the polling's been very, very close. We can quibble with how accurate the polling is, but I expect it to be a pretty close vote too. I mean, I think I think it's because of the Chiefs. I think attaching themselves to the Chiefs is the only way this thing can pass. I don't think the Royals could pass this on their own, and attaching themselves to the Chiefs will probably make it pretty close. And we'll have to see. I am a downtown baseball supporter. I like downtown baseball. I'd like for the team to move downtown. But I agree with Jeremy that the entire process has been pretty suspect. I thought it was gonna. I thought they had their ducks in a row when they announced this. A year and a half ago, and it's turned out not to be the case at all. And so kind of like figuring things out the last minute like this, which you expect some minor details to be kind of worked out the last minute, but not like where the stadium's going to be. So I certainly understand why people are frustrated that there hasn't been as much transparency as maybe they promised at the outset.
Gotcha. Jeremy, anything else before we move on to Q&A?
I just want to. This is dumb, but I'm gonna say it anyway. There was a joke, Max. I think you probably posted this on the Royals Review Twitter about how where the stadium would go if they didn't want to close the road, that they'll just have to pause the game every few minutes to let the traffic through.
Which would actually be really cool. It'd be a cool stadium feature.
It's absolutely something you'd see in a video game. I expect them to implement that in MLB The Show next year. But Lux came back in.
And the traffic comes down. You say, "Hey, car's coming, car!" And then
like your backyard baseball. Yeah. Our good buddy Lux came in and said, "What if they just built like a raised thing over the road and everything was fine?" And I said, then I made a tweet where I said, "The Royals build a raised stadium above the crossroads." And then I put crossroads : and then I put a GIF of a cloud looking up at Midgar from Final Fantasy VII. And I was very proud of that joke. So I'm just telling everyone about it again because I want everyone to think I'm funny.
You are funny, Jeremy. You are. Don't you ever worry about that.
But looks aren't everything, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys are going to pod. I guess you probably pod before the election, but do you have predictions? I mean, I don't know. I know you guys are out of town, so you don't have necessarily are exposed to the campaign that that we've been exposed to, at least in the area. But do you guys have predictions on it, whether this passes or not?
Yeah, like you said, we're out of towners. All I'm really seeing is what I'm hearing on like 610 and what I'm seeing on social media. So that's kind of my bar. I do think it's going to pass, specifically for that reason you said, Max, is that they're latched onto the Chiefs, and there's enough fear mongering that if you vote no, we're gonna lose the Chiefs. Chiefs are gonna go to Tennessee, the Memphis Chiefs, like some ridiculousness like that. I am interested to see how wide the margin is, though, and It could be 3 points, it could be 30 points, and that really will tell a different story. Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, so my kind of internet echo chamber is a whole bunch of people who are very kind of opposed to this whole thing, whether in principle of giving money to billionaires, or they've been seeing the same stuff in the CBA that I have that just is just bonkers. But I've always kind of felt like this is the kind of thing that tends to pass because people are afraid their team will move, and that fear overrides all common sense. And they let the billionaires bully them. And it's a shame. And I will be very disappointed, not in the voters necessarily, but in the Royals, who I think had a real opportunity when they were presented with kind of really interesting frameworks from Milwaukee and from Nashville with the CBAs that were done with those stadiums there, to really make a historic, transformative agreement that would really improve the lives of people in downtown Kansas City, and they've just decided to make it about themselves instead.
Yeah, one of our posters, BH Indip, I think that's his name. He's really well versed in political history, and I forgot he reminded me that the 2006 vote for renovating the stadiums barely passed. It only passed like 52-48, and there wasn't really any organized opposition to that. Like I actually had a friend at the time who was one of the most vocal opponents to it, and he kind of ran this like satire "Save the Millionaires" campaign. And that was pretty much the only token opposition there was, and that barely passed. So I had been pretty confident the whole time that this was going to pass, and I think in the last month, just seeing them kind of bungle things, and the Star I think has been pretty clearly against this, which I think does still count for something for a lot of older voters. And so now I don't know. I if I had to put money on it, I'd probably say it doesn't pass, but it's going to be close, and it's going to be, I think, a really close vote, and I could see it either way happening. So, and I don't know, it wouldn't be like I said, I'm pretty split. I could be on board with this, despite all the reservations, to kind of hold my nose, or I'd be happy with it getting rejected and come back with a better offer. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I hope you're right, and this is kind of the point I keep trying to make to people, is that John Sherman is so embedded in Kansas City. He's not going to just up and move the team because he loses one vote. He's going to have to come back and figure some stuff out and make a better offer to the county and to the people of Kansas City. That's what he's going to do. I mean, and maybe he still doesn't get there, and maybe he still doesn't get his vote, and then he moves. But he's not going to immediately move because he lost one vote. There's going to be an effort to negotiate first. So I hope people won't just be terrified that the team is immediately leaving the moment they lose this vote.
No, it's hard to move a Major League Baseball team. Look how long the A's thing has dragged out for years. Then the Expos took like 15 years to move to Washington. It's very difficult to move a Major League Baseball team. And frankly, there aren't really Salt Lake City, I think, is building a stadium. So I guess there is an opportunity there now. But it's not like anyone has, there's any market that's just like, here we go, we have a stadium ready for you. It would take some time. And like you said, Sherman is a Kansas City guy. They would move within the metro if I think they'll, like you said, they'll take a couple cracks at downtown. And if that doesn't work, there's Northland, there's Kansas. There are other opportunities within the metro. We wouldn't lose the Royals altogether.
Yeah, and the thing that I really want to I think about when I think about the Athletics and how long and arduous that process has been, that their owner wants to move. That's his primary desire, and it's still been this hard and taken this long. So if John Sherman doesn't want to move, and I think we all agree he probably doesn't, it's going to be longer and harder for him to make that happen than even what's happening with the Athletics.
I couldn't agree more, guys, and I really appreciate both of y'all's insights into that, because I think that's we're all very much overlooking like what could happen past April 2nd. We're all just so focused on what is going to happen on April 2nd that we don't really see what the ripple effects of that decision will have. So I'm listen, we're gonna have it up to date. Jeremy, I haven't talked to you about this yet, but I kind of have a feeling that once we have official results, we're probably gonna hop on and do a podcast. That's kind of how it went last
Whether I'm
time.
crying or screaming incoherently in joy, you mean?
Yes, yeah, where you rip your shirt off.
I like my shirts. I don't just tear them off.
I got too many, man. I got to get rid of some. Got to turn them into dishcloths or something, right? So hey, let's go ahead and let's get on out of here. By the time folks are listening to this, man, I hope y'all are driving out to Kauffman Stadium. I hope you're waiting in line for a concession or something. I heard that they did some. Max, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought they did like some good value concessions or something like that. I heard like $4 hot dogs and more cheap, accessible stuff.
I don't know. I didn't hear about that. I do know they're getting the new hot dogs this year along with the Coke instead of Pepsi.
Yeah.
And they added, I think, a couple new food options. But yeah, I'll have to look into that. I don't know about any of the.
Did you guys see the White Sox new campfire milkshake thing? They said that thing's 16 ounces. It does not look, it looks like it's 30 ounces.
Yeah.
It looks like it will murder you if you try to drink that whole thing.
I'm pretty sure that they just went down to the south side and collected up a whole bunch of traffic cones from those crappy roads out there. All right, and they just painted them white and filled them up with ice cream. And oh my gosh, listen, I'm here for it. I'm here for Jake Eisenberg trying to tackle one.
Oh yeah, he should do that on air for sure.
Right? I feel like it's going to be a Bally segment. So hey, let's go ahead and get to our Q&A responses, and we'll get out of here with reviews. So. First and foremost, if you want to interact with the podcast on, just on any given episode, the best place to do that is Spotify. So if you listen to us on Spotify, you have access to our exclusive polls and Q&As, and we ask one on every single episode. So we'd love to hear from you. A little bit of backstory on the last episode. It was roster decision time. We had a lot of the major roster decisions known by then. So I asked in the poll, which Nick should have made the opening day roster, Nick Lofton or Nick Prado? And 100% of respondents said Lofton. So I was very surprised by that, but both players had very strong springs, and I think our listeners are more bullish on Lofton than they are on Prado in the long term. But the question I asked was, we're here doing it today. We're here getting excited for opening day. Finally, it is here. And so I asked, what are you most excited about on opening day? Longtime listener Royal Rupert said, I'm excited for fans to fall in love with the K all over again and start a Save the K and Crossroads campaign. So I think we know what side he falls on there, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Mind the Mooses says, I feel like MJ Melendez quietly had a good spring training. Excited to see if what we saw late last season was for real. Hey, I'm right there with you. And then Steve says, playing to win. Simply, I think that's what we're all asking for, guys. We just want meaningful baseball again, right?
Yep. They evaluated last year. They said, now we've done our evaluations. Let's try and win. And they went out and signed some guys. And I think they made some good signings. And I think they made some questionable signings. But those signings all point towards we want to win some baseball games.
Agreed. Could not agree more. So again, if you want to hear your response read on air, you got to respond on Spotify to our Q&As and the poll. But now it is on to the beloved Royals reviews. I remember when Max brought me on to host this podcast. That was one of the first things he mentioned when I asked, like, "Hey, how does this podcast run? Like, who's kind of on it? Who helps make it happen?" And it was a bunch of details, and I specifically remember at the end we do Royals reviews. And I definitely butchered it a few times when I first started. Is it the Royal reviews, or is it what? There's 3 R's, and I'm very confused. But I think I finally have it down. Max, do you mind starting us off tonight?
Hey, you're doing great, and you can make it whatever you want to be. It's not you don't have to do it at all if you don't want to. But I appreciate you carrying on the tradition. So yeah, my review this week is we got Apple Plus. I like to bounce around the streamers, And so I've been going through their content. It's pretty good content. I binged all 4 seasons of For All Mankind, which is it's an alternate history of the space program if the Soviets had landed on the moon first and spurred a space race that would have accelerated what we've done so far, because we kind of stopped going to the moon in the 70s. Imagines if we had set up a moon base in the 80s and eventually gone on to Mars. And so it's a really fascinating. If you're into space, it's definitely up your alley. If you're not into space, it's still, I think, action packed and a very cool look at how we look at science. Also, some interesting alternate histories as far as like who becomes president in this alternate universe and what other events happen and don't happen. But I think it's a tremendous show. Like I said, I binged all 4 seasons in like 2 months. So For All Mankind, it's on Apple Plus.
I like it. Yeah, Jeremy, you're kind of a stand for Apple Plus content.
Yeah, and I'm also a space guy, so I need to, obviously I'm slacking. I need to check that out.
Have you seen Foundation on there?
I have not.
No, that's kind of next on my queue. That's another one. And then there's another one called Constellation that's supposed to be about space. That's pretty
okay. Good. Yeah, the ones I keep telling everybody about are obviously Ted Lasso, which I think anyone who's even thought of Apple Plus has seen that, and rightfully so. But also Severance or something like that.
Yep.
Terrific show, and the Jason Segel, Harrison Ford psychologist show, which Shrinking is also very, very good. So those are the ones I usually recommend. But I've been meaning to watch Foundation, and I can't believe I feel like I must have heard about For All Mankind, but I have not attempted to watch it. So I will put that high on my list. So I'm going to go ahead this week, and I will review. I guess I'll go ahead and review Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm probably a third to halfway through it. It was a little weird at the beginning because I didn't remember really what had happened at the end of the remake, and I was going into this like, oh yeah, Final Fantasy VII, very serious game, takes itself very seriously. And then the next thing I know, I'm playing the one-armed Barret climbing straight up a flat, like a 90-degree wall. And I'm just like, that's kind of goofy. And it's only gotten goofier from there. And I'm having a good time. I love goofy stuff. I love things that don't take themselves too seriously. Kind of feels like they're aiming for the vibe that you get from a Yakuza or Like a Dragon game, where like the main plot points can be kind of serious, but then there's a lot of side content that's not quite as serious, and it kind of fleshes out the characters and gives them a little bit more depth than you might see. They're not quite nailing it. Cloud is not quite the protagonist that Kiryu and Ichiban are, but he's doing his best, and I gotta respect that. So I'm having a real good time with it. I'm probably, as soon as we log off here, gonna go boot that back up and go see what else I can do in the gold saucer.
Oh yeah, sounds good to me. And honestly, Jeremy, I've not touched the Final Fantasy series at all.
Oh, you're missing out, man. There are so many good games, a few bad ones, a lot of mediocre ones too. It's a big series.
Well, when you get into 15, I mean, goodness gracious, and then you start going back and you're redoing the old ones again. Yeah,
and you can't forget the spin-offs like Tactics, or the sequels like Final Fantasy X-2 or 13-2 or Lightning Returns. There's a lot of games in this series, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Sounds like it. Goodness, I don't even know where to start. You'll have to tell me about that later on. For my review this week, I'm going to talk about Chris Rose. So frankly, he was an MLB Network guy. Apparently, hosted some show called Intentional Talk. I never watched it. My introduction to him was with John Boy Media, where he hosts the Chris Rose rotation and Baseball Today with Trevor Plouffe. I enjoy both very, very much. The time that I allot to like baseball news as a whole around the league is not a whole lot, but Baseball Today really puts it in a very digestible, entertaining, and informative way. And I enjoy that. And when I have time, I sit down and watch the Chris Rose rotation because he has on a lot of players, which apparently is what he did with Intentional Talk, if I'm understanding it correctly, talking to active players about things on the field and off the field. I know he had Vinny Pasquantino on the show at one point. I don't know if he's had any other recent Royals on the show, but I enjoy every single episode. Every single episode has something different, and it's good to learn about the players as people as well. So that's something I enjoy. Please go check out those two shows, Baseball Today with Trevor Plouffe and the Chris Rose Rotation on John Boy Media, wherever. I think they're on YouTube, and they're probably on all the podcast platforms. I mean, they are a massive conglomerate at this point.
Chris
all right,
Rose, he
guys.
seems like one of those dudes. Is just fun to be a fun dude who like loves baseball, and we could always use more of those, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And it's you don't have to dive in super meticulously to baseball. Just hearing stories sometimes is kind of the lost art of baseball. I will say, guys, before we get out of here, most of these folks are going to be listening to this on opening day. Any closing thoughts?
I want to watch some baseball. I want to stop thinking about all this business stuff. I want to watch some baseball. I want to watch Cole Reagan strike some guys out with 101-mile-per-hour heat. I'm excited. Let's go hit some dingers.
Jeremy's excited. Let's go. I like it. Well, hey,
I'll
Max,
just remind people it's a long season. It's 162 games, so if things go well the first game or things don't go so well, remember there's 161 games left.
Max, cold water.
Also, I'll be running an
supposed to
article
do
on
the
Friday.
Saudi Splash after the win, not just to be.
No, we love him, Max, and you are absolutely right. It is a long season, and a lot can happen in 162 games. Again, Max, hey, thank you a lot for joining us. Do appreciate you coming on. It's been a while. Are you going to keep fans up to date on the Royals Review X and Facebook when you're out at the ballpark tomorrow?
As much as I'm able to. I don't see how the internet connection is out there.
Fair enough. I couldn't tell you how it is out there. Alrighty, y'all. Well, if you're still listening to this, please go support the work that is going on over at Royals Review. It is some great stuff. You can check out the 2024 predictions article. That's a great place to start. And if you just want to learn more on opening day, and especially after opening day when we have actual baseball to talk about, that is the place to do it at royalsreview.com. Also on X and Facebook. To all of our listeners out there, thank you so much for listening. Go follow us on X at Royal Rundown Pod and TikTok at Royal Rundown Pod. And until next time, go Royals!